Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support, and I'd like to say thank you to our 3 newest patrons, Lisa Mueller, Paco Stoddard, and Jennifer Dravilas. We are almost at 30 patrons. It's just amazing to me to think that so many people actually care enough about what we're doing here at Japankyo.com to shell out their hard-earned money. I mean, that is just amazing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to join the Patreon, then you can go over to japankyo.com/Patreon. And if you just want to do a one-time contribution, you can go over to kofi.com/Japankyo. That's ko-fi.com/Japankyo. Again, japankyo.com/Patreon. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Japan Station, a production of japankyo.com. I'm your host, Tony Vega. So just a quick reminder, we started a YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please go subscribe. Go check out the videos that we've put out so far. By the time you're listening to this, I think the 4th video will probably be up. That one involves emus. It's a really fun and interesting video. We tried something a little bit different in that one, so let us know in the comments if you like that style. But please, please, please go subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, do all that stuff to let YouTube know that people actually like the content that we're putting out. It's really hard to grow a YouTube channel, especially at the beginning. So we really, really need all the help we can get. So again, Japankyo Docs, you can go check it out over at japankyo.com/YT or just find it on YouTube. All right, so my guest today is Shing02, rapper, artist, music producer, all around just really, really interesting guy, Shing02. So if you're anything like me, you first learned about Shing02's work via Samurai Champloo, right? The very, very popular anime that came out, I think, 2003. And Shing02 worked on the opening theme song for Samurai Champloo. So the song is called Battlecry, and it's by the late, great Nujabes, and it features Shing02. So that's how I first learned about Shing02. And then I'm sure I looked him up afterwards, and I came to learn more about the work that he does and the various albums that he's put out over the years. And eventually, when I started working here in Hawaii, I came to work for a magazine called Wasabi Magazine. And through that job, I came to learn that Shing02 was living in Hawaii. So I wanted to interview him, and I did get to interview him. But that was a little over 2 years ago. That was in November of 2019, if I remember correctly. And so I interviewed him, I recorded it, and I was thinking I would release this as an episode of the podcast. But I would also use it as the basis for an article that would be published in Wasabi Magazine. I was going to write it, but you know what happened just a few months after that interview? The world shut down due to the pandemic, and we had to stop production of the magazine. So I never got to write the article. I never got to publish the article that I was going to write. And so I was stuck with this interview. We didn't know when we were going to start the magazine back up again. And so I was just sitting on it. And eventually I just decided I should just put this out. So I got permission from the owner of the magazine. And here we go, right? This is the conversation that I had with Shing02 almost 2 years ago, or actually a little over 2 years ago, probably, as of the time of this recording. But it doesn't really feel particularly old. I mean, we don't talk about anything that was really going on at the time so much. You're just going to get to learn about Shing02's like heritage, his name, also his work and his music and his art and his kind of creative process, and a funny story that indirectly involves Katy Perry and stickers. And then at the end, we talk a little bit about some restaurants here in Hawaii. So if you ever come to Hawaii, you might want to check those out. Yeah, it's a fun conversation. And I am so happy that I finally get to share this in-person conversation with Shing02.
The next stop is Japan Station. The doors on the right side will open.
I've got a couple just really basic questions. Something that I wasn't able to find online was, where did the name Shingo2 come from? Obviously, Shingo is your first name, but where'd the 2 come from?
Definitely. Well, that's one of the most often asked questions for me. Let's see. I'll just give you the short, medium version.
Sure.
Well, for one, I've always liked the number 2 growing up. Tanzania, London, you know, I was all over the world, but 2 has always been my lucky number. And the name and the number format is definitely a tribute to the old school hip hop artists like Phase 2, KRS One, and then the beat maker that I was with at the time, his name was Boss One. So I was like, I'll just be Shingo2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the other reason for that, which was I was hanging out with a Japanese crew, and at the time there was another Shingo in the crew. So and then his house was more like the hangout in Fillmore in San Francisco. So every time I would go there, people would just like call me like, "Oh, you're 2 and 1 and 2." You know what I mean? Just to avoid confusion.
Yeah.
But there was no reason I had to adopt it, you know what I'm saying, like as my stage name. But because I liked number 2 already, I was totally fine with that.
Yeah. Just stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I stuck it on myself, really, you know, as an MC name. And then the final tidbit is that this is the days before Google. Yeah. You know, we were still using Netscape and Alta Vista for search engines. Yeah. But I realized early on that if I just write my name and add number 2, it's not very searchable. You know what I mean? Like you'll get a lot of random Shingos around the world and the file names with a 2. So that's why I spelled it SHING02.
Right.
And that made way more of a unique text string.
Definitely, yeah. That's very forward thinking.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, yeah, if it was just Shingos, like you'd just be buried in the...
Little bit, yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that kind of still confuses people how to read my name. Some people say it's Shing or Shing02, but it doesn't matter for me,
So, kind of a similar question, I guess. Something that really caught my attention was your real last name, like Annen. Yeah, it's not common at all. I'd never seen that last name.
Yeah, not really. No.
I was looking online. You know, like in Japanese, you can look up like where's my last name from and all that stuff. Right. According to the site that I found, there's only 1,300 people that claim that last name. So, do you know anything about that? Like to me, it sounds very Buddhist.
Yeah, right? I know a lot about it. So, man, this is I can't spend 3 hours talking about my ancestry right now, but as far as I know, and from what my parents found out later in their years, when they were taking care of their parents' remains and whatnot, you know, on my father's side, which is the Annen family, they were part of the Wada clan in Kamakura. And this is the time of Hojo. And the Hojo clan were pretty ruthless in eliminating all of their rivals. Like they would like take away land or accuse people of treason and just like straight up eliminate them. And Wada clan was one of them. So they ended up actually trying to overthrow the government at the time, you know, but they failed. Like somebody snitched on them and then they got eradicated. And then the records that are kept in Wakayama Prefecture, if you go up to Koyasan, that's the...
it's a big like collection of temples.
Yeah, that's the grounds of Shingon. Buddhist sect. They call it Shingon Mikkyo, which is the mystic sect started by Kukai or Kobo Daishi, like a little bit over 1,200 years ago. And they have the temples there and the records are kept. And then the Annen family, that was what was written there, that the Wada clan came from Kamakura. They became monks in Ise, in Mie Prefecture, and then they moved on to go to Toyama Prefecture.
Yeah, I saw that. Toyama is the most common place where that last name is.
So if you go to Tonami City in Toyama Prefecture, I hear there are a lot of Annens.
Yeah. I saw, according to those statistics, it was like 400 people in Toyama, like maybe a little bit less in Hokkaido.
Oh, really?
And then there's like 200 in Tokyo. And then from there, it was like less and less and less.
Okay.
And yeah. Only 1,300. So
as far as we know, that's how it started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you think like that was a name they took on after they moved to that area, the Koyasan? Like to kind of
they didn't actually move to Koyasan. The records say they became a monk in Ise.
Okay.
Of all places, because Ise is known for Shinto shrines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Ise Jingu.
Ise Jingu, yeah, the most famous, biggest one. Yeah.
But I guess over the years, Shinto religion and Buddhism have been very intricately connected. If you go to a Buddhist shrine, Buddhist temple, you will actually see a Shinto shrine inside. Just out of respect. It's kind of a wild story historically and culturally, But yeah, they became a monk in Ise and then they moved to Toyama.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the kanji, right, it's like an is like peace of mind kind of thing, right? Peacefulness, and then nen, like thought or wish. It could also be kind of
it's
like
basically prayer in terms of Buddhist
so
tradition, like nenbutsu,
Right. Yeah. Very cool story. So, in Japan, it's pretty relatively easy to find a lot of his family history because of the whole family registry system, right? You can go back several generations.
We were very lucky because our name is sort of unique.
Right.
Imagine being a Sato or Suzuki,
or Tanaka or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're very lucky. Yeah.
Like you mentioned, and of course I've read in many places, you were born in Tokyo, but you moved around a lot as a kid. Like, what was that? Were your families was your family in the like diplomats or something like that, or was it business or?
Yeah, my dad was in business, and then he basically got shipped around, and we just moved around with him. So I was in Dar es Salaam from age probably like 3 to 6. And from 6 to 9, I was in London near Wimbledon, Southfields. And then from there, we moved back to Tokyo, for a while. And then Chiba, I was there from like middle of 3rd grade to middle of 8th grade.
Yeah.
And then I went to high school in the Bay Area after that. And then I stayed on.
So your dad got sent to the Bay Area?
Yeah, and then that was another move, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So because I know you've said many times you were more into drawing really from a young age, right?
That's right.
You weren't thinking like you were going to go into music. So when did that shift happen? When did you think like, I want to like record stuff, I want to get into hip hop and all that?
So I think it all came together because I did choose to go to UC Berkeley when I was 18, right after high school. And during my high school days, I was just a regular kid, really. There was no entertainment whatsoever around the neighborhood I was in. Like we would just go to movies or house parties or go bowling or something, you know what I mean? Like we didn't really have like jams or concerts where we were. And we didn't really have it in us to be like, let's go into the city because we were underage. There's nothing we can do, you know what I mean? So when I was 18, I became a freshman at UC Berkeley. Everything changed. Like, because there's Telegraph Avenue right side of the school.
Okay.
People were freestyling, handing out flyers, and because I like to draw, just the hip hop culture that I experienced firsthand, I just got sucked in. Right. Like in high school, I would draw a lot, or I would just kind of poke fun at hip hop, just kind of imitating it, or I would be in various, like I remember one chemistry class, we had to write a rap song about it, but I was never serious. I just kind of let the other kids handle it. I was more of the art guy.
Right.
I was even voted the most artistic in our yearbook. That's the kind of nerdy kid I was. But then, first I became enamored with the graffiti culture of it. And then the whole graphic art scene was exploding as far as like extra large and, flipping logos, because Photoshop was basically being introduced to us. Like that was mind blowing back then, if you can believe it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, I can take a photo and change the billboard and make it say my name or something. And that was revolutionary back then.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know? So, I mean, that, you know, basically also part of just hip hop culture in general. It wasn't just about rapping, DJing, digging, making beats, breakdancing, of course, beatboxing, all of that. I just got sucked into it. And then I had so many good mentors. Boss One, I told you earlier, was one of them. And Del the Funky Homo Sapien from Hieroglyphics. I listened to him religiously in high school, and then I just ended up meeting him. And he was like, well, you're Japanese. Why don't you come to my house and translate these video game instructions for me? So I was starstruck. But he ended up becoming my mentor and good friend of mine. He hasn't changed a single bit, you know, since the day I met him. He's awesome. Just a really, really cool guy. And then eventually I met all the guys on Telegraph, like Mystic Journeyman, Living Legends, Hobo Junction, Soul Size, the whole DJ Shadow crew, and DJ Qbert, all of them. And yeah, it was just a renaissance period at the time. And if you think about it, they're all young, late teens, early 20s, you know, just doing really, really creative stuff.
So I guess, you know, they all just started to kind of like introduce you as like, oh, do you know my friend? Do you know this? And then it just kind of kept growing and growing from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool.
I would say you just kind of had to introduce yourself almost. Yeah, it wasn't so much that I got introduced to other people. Yeah, that's how hip hop works, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before you got in at Berkeley, I believe you studied art, right?
No, I was an engineering student.
Oh, really?
My major was called EECS, Electrical Engineering and Computer Science.
Really?
And there were like options A through E or something like that. I was a little bit more on the software side, which I a little bit regret. I think I would have enjoyed the hardware side a little bit more. So I had to do a lot of programming and just take a bunch of classes just so I can finish. Yeah, it was hard.
So you were thinking you were going to go into something related to that, computer science, engineering, or was
you know,
it...
I just wasn't thinking that much when I applied for it as a senior in high school. And I just kind of assumed I'll just go into the sciences, right? Because we were in Silicon Valley, right? And that was like the thing to do, I guess. And yeah, I guess I was more adept at math than, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
than humanities. But it did turn out that, you know, I always enjoyed art in high school, and I always enjoyed writing poetry. So eventually those two kind of converged.
So, but it was because I remember, you know, Dr. Capital Jonathan Patterson mentioning like he was at while he was at Berkeley, I believe, right? You guys met. Is that it?
No,
or you were recording while you were there? Something like that, I think.
Well, basically, I kind of transitioned out of university into basically working for my friend. Okay. His name's Antonio Camilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he might be part Portuguese actually, but he
might be Brazilian, maybe.
No, I think he has like Portuguese. I want to say Taiwanese and Japanese in him, but he's just a brilliant guy. And he was only like a couple years ahead of me in school, but he had already set up his business, what you call localizing, which means translating and kind of taking whatever product and introducing it to another market. But a bulk of it was like translating and technical translating at that, you know, doing manuals and making sure everything is right, you know. So that type of thing, and also testing software, like making sure the interface is good. Like someone has to do that, right? Yeah. So I would just take on those side gigs. I actually took a semester off from school, university, because it was just too stressful for me that I couldn't do music. So one semester I just completely took off, went to work, saved money, got equipment, and then I went back and finished. Right. So even after graduation, I just never looked back. I never wanted a real 9-to-5. So I just kind of kept this flexible schedule with my friend's company, and I would be temping, doing these odd jobs. Sometimes I would go to Adobe or these big companies and do the testing for them. But that's where I met Jonathan. And one day I just saw him, and we just kind of started talking, and he told me he's a guitarist, and then the rest is history.
And then you guys started like recording together. And yeah,
definitely.
So what was by that point, had you already released something like an album, or was that like the first one you were going to start working on?
No, I had definitely released a cassette album with Boss One, and then soon after I started making my own beats. So I had couple of projects out, and then I also released what you call an EP called Pearl Harbor. Yeah. So that was like a single, like a rap single in Japanese and English, but I also had this whole B-side that was very conceptual in nature. And I did a lot of like collages and political work with the rest of the album.
Right. So how did you, because you started performing and releasing stuff in Japan, how did you get into the whole scene in Japan?
So I had my cassette album that I was sort of demoing and eventually did come out, but that's how I met my friend Higo.
Okay.
Norihiro Higo, and he runs this label, Mary Jo Recordings, to this day. And that was like the friendship that I struck up.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, before then, there were a couple of opportunities. There's a reggae singer named Miki Dozan that used to come to San Francisco. We put out a single together, and the producer, he just passed away. His name is Mr. Yamamoto. Rest in peace. Like he put out my first vinyl, and then he kind of bridged me and Higo together. That I had met him before, but he introduced me formally to him, I believe. And also, there's this rapper named Lyrics Born. He's part of DJ Shadow crew back in the day called Soul Size. He's a great rapper. He's an actor now and everything. And he introduced me to some people in Shibuya. Like when I first went up to him, he was doing like this lecture along with other Asian American leaders, including Jeff Chang and Oliver Wang. And those were like our role models, you know what I mean? So that's why I was lucky to be in the Bay and at Cal, having all these mentors and role models. And then Lyrics Born happens to be part Japanese.
Oh.
And that's not the only reason, but he already had hookups in Shibuya and Manhattan Records in particular, where that was like the hub of all things hip hop. So he introduced me to this producer named Mr. Itagaki. He's a beat maker, and he used to work at the store too. So I just went there and I introduced myself, and then he hooked me up with the scene back then.
Cool.
And this is like 1995 or 6.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess it was just like actual physically meeting people, not really internet at the time.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it wasn't until, I guess, when I started really playing around with the internet must have been like 97, 98. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. So I'm curious, do you approach writing a rap in Japanese any different from English? Like, because something that I find really interesting about Japanese in the context of rap is just the way the words are just made up, right? Like just linguistically, you have verbs that end a certain way, adjectives end a certain way. Does that ever play into the whole thing, or do you not think about that? Like, what's the process like? Can you give me any insight into that?
Sure. Yeah. So I definitely get that asked a lot too, but if you notice, like I rarely ever do mix the two languages. If I do a Japanese project, Japanese album, it's just straight up Japanese. And if I do English, same thing, right? I don't really mix the two. I've maybe done 2 songs in my life where I've mixed the two. I don't,
That's really interesting because in Japan, like the rappers over there, they like to mix it up, right?
Yeah, they do. They do.
That's pretty common.
Yeah. So I've just kind of made it into style, really. If I rap in Japanese, I want it to be strictly Japanese kind, and I really want to express whatever the theme is and whatever the music is setting up the mood for, for me to be inside the music. And that's kind of my thing, So whether it's a Japanese project, English project, I really let the music kind of set the tone. And then I really try to imagine what would fit into it. Yeah.
So does that mean that you typically start with a track and then you write something?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. But I assume there must also be times when you just think, oh, I really want to write this down. You just thought of something and then later you create a track for it?
So that hardly happens. So
okay, really?
I'm sure subconsciously I do that, but it's always the music.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's cool. So then you're just kind of trying to find a good beat, a nice melody, and then kind of putting it all together, and then...
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I will fish for beats because I always have like a writing folder, right, out of beats I'm supposed to write to, or a producer gave me a bunch of beats, or I have some candidates that are open. So sometimes I will fish through them, but usually, I would just listen to the beat, and if something hits me, I just write to it.
Cool.
Yeah. I think, and I just kind of default to that way because I know from experience that yields for the best results. You know what I mean? Like whether the beat is aggressive, or whether it's mellow, or whether it's melancholy, or whether it's fast paced. I just kind of, it's almost like writing a script to a film. It's like method acting in a way, you know?
Right. You get in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
Right. And then you naturally have to respond to that mood. Right. Yeah. Yesterday, I came across your album 246911. I think
That's Nishimuku Samurai. Yeah.
Oh, see, I was trying to figure out if it was like Goro Awase, like what you just did, like, because you can take the numbers and then turn it into hiragana and Japanese, right?
So that's an old saying for the months that don't have 31 days. February, April, June, September, and then November.
Okay, so that's good to know.
And then Nishimuku means like facing west, right? Yeah. And then Juichi is like samurai,
right?
In kanji.
Okay,
right. So
I was trying to figure that out, and I couldn't figure it out.
It just means samurai facing west.
Gotcha.
And the west can be analogy for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Because we come from the far east. You know?
Right. So that just came out recently, right?
We put that out in January, so we were recording that like a year ago.
I really loved, like, you use a lot of like Japanese, the tracks, Japanese instruments, like background vocals, like festival chanting kind of stuff, right? Like that was, I really liked it.
Thank you.
So how did that come about? Like, was that your idea? How did that come about?
No, that came from my good friend Spin Master A1, and he had been just building an arsenal of beats like that using Japanese samples, and he had already put out a couple of projects. I mean, even 2019 he's putting out 3 projects just strictly Japanese samples. So I just kind of told him to save some beats for me, and then that album pretty much we wrote and recorded it in like a month. Wow. Yeah. So I just got into the zone, and we just knocked it out.
Awesome. Yeah. No, it's very cool. Very, you don't hear that so much, but I think it's a great match. I mean, the vocals with the...
Thank you.
Yeah, with the backtrack, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, just a solid hip hop album for us. But I definitely did go in really deep on that one though. Like I haven't even like heard it in a while, but like towards the end, I have this whole song about a big fire happening in Edo, and then the guy ends up going to hell, and then, you know what I mean? And back. So it was a lot of fun writing that story. There's a lot of twists and turns and things that I alluded to, if you know a lot of these fables.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool.
Thank you.
So how did you then, let's see, when did you come to Hawaii? Let's start with that. When did you decide you're moving to Hawaii, and how long have you been here?
When was that? I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay. All right.
So I was in LA at the time.
Yeah.
So I took a break from the Bay Area and stayed in LA for a good 3 or 4 years. And I was actually eyeing to move to New York. My DJ was there at the time. DJ Icewater was there at the time. A lot of my friends, I even did an album there. I just loved New York so much, and I was this close to getting this apartment, but this person turned me down last minute because I didn't even know this person, but she decided not to move back. It was some family stuff. So, and it was a great deal in Brooklyn. That was like the only thing that I was hoping that'll come through, But that didn't happen, and then, man, this is a funny story though. Like Katy Perry,
Okay.
blocked my home.
What do you mean?
Like, this is what happened. I mean, she didn't do it personally, of course, but since I was like moving so much when I was staying in LA, like half the time I was either gone or out the country, you know. But one of the times I was on the East Coast, like I was there for like a good 2 months, so I had to put it up on Airbnb. And then I was living in this like really crazy compound. Like I had my own unit that I pretty much renovated myself. It was just like a stucco building, but it was perfect for recording and everything. So it was really a weird unit in a weird compound. Okay, you know what I mean? But
very unique space.
Yeah, and then exactly, my landlords are super hippied out, and they're totally chill. They're okay with me subletting it. They even lowered my rent because I was gone for a long time. But I put it up on Airbnb, and this guy responded like, oh, okay, I want it for the whole month or something. And I was ecstatic because I wasn't going to be there. I'm not going to like rent it out like every other day, or I can't ask my landlord to do that for me, right? And then the night I was about to leave for New York, this guy hits me up like, yo, I'm really sorry I got to bail on you. You know, I'm actually Katy Perry's guitarist. And then she canceled the tour on us, you know? And at the time, I don't recall exactly, but look it up, and she's on some like vacation somewhere, you know? And I'm like, man, but it's true. Like she really did that. And he had a bail, right? And I couldn't blame him. I'm sorry the story's taking so long.
No, it's okay. It's really
so I was like, all right, don't worry about it. And so when I left, I told my landlord, hey, like if you find somebody to cover my rent, I'm cool with that. So, you know, it's still my place. I'm just still subletting it, right? Like all my stuff is there, but it's just packed away. So if you find somebody, cool, just let me know. And then 2 months pass, I come back, I don't really hear from my landlord. And then I get to my unit and I see this metal door bolted onto my front door, like one of those security door things, you know what I mean? I can't even reach my knob. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And I ask my landlord, and they're just baffled as much as I am. And it turns out the family that she let into my unit, they were like straight up meth heads.
Oh my God.
And you know, the guy, wife, and a baby, and they straight up refused me to even enter back into my own unit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I never saw the inside of my place ever again.
Your stuff? Like, what happened?
So that stuff I successfully negotiated with said meth head that he would leave all of my stuff in this school bus that was parked inside the compound because, you know, I lived in a hippie compound. So he just stuffed it in there one night and I just had to retrieve it. And, and I was missing some equipment too, you know, but at that point, there's nothing I could do. Yeah. And he was like straight up aggro. So my friend was like, yo, it's not worth it. Let's just get out of here. And so I was homeless at that time. Wow. Because of that. Yeah. And then I decided to move to Hawaii. So long story short, if it weren't for Katy Perry, I probably wouldn't be here.
That is, I was not expecting the twists and turns there.
But it's true though. That's the sequence of the butterfly effect of events that happened because she was in love.
So you get here, and how have you liked it?
No, of course I love it because even before I moved here, I came here almost every year with my DJ A1 to do a show. So I was really good friends with Bone, who actually lives in this building right now. He's a promoter. I've known him for a while. And DJ Paco, he was like one of my first DJs here.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. And then I also discovered Lana Lane, where my studio is right now. Yeah. And I was recording there. Yeah. And my friend, my bandmate now, Nick Kalikini, would engineer for me. That's how I met him, through another guy named Anton Glam. And I was slowly being introduced to this community as well. And I knew about powwow. And that's when I volunteered, hey, I can be part of that too. And I'm part of the School of Music now. So all these stand-up guys really helped me kind of integrate myself into this community. Cool. Yeah.
So School of Music at UH? Like where
No. It's just part of Powwow Mural Festival. Yeah.
Okay. So is that like giving lectures and stuff like that?
You know, it's really more so guiding these super talented young musicians, mostly in their high school years, to just session with each other. And that's what we do. And we, of course, introduce a lot of like industry people to like be speakers and kind of motivate them in various ways, and just get them to record and write original material as opposed to doing covers. You know, that's just what we are there to encourage. And also throughout the year, whatever opportunity we can provide, we try to do that. And then we also started that in Japan as well.
Cool. Yeah. Wow. So one thing, I mean, there's two things that seem to have come out of your time in Hawaii that I discovered. One is the Chee-Hoos, and one is, you know, WabyShaka and all your art here. How did the Chee-Hoos and your collaboration with them come about?
Right. So, I mean, the Chee-Hoos is just a name that we just kind of assigned to our band because I didn't want to just tour under my name. I really wanted to give respect to the musicians that we travel with. And Nick Kalikini on the sax was, like I mentioned, first guy that I became friends with. And at that time, Gotaro Ostari, who's still my studio mate, he was a keyboard member of that crew. And then Calvin Kanha, who's an awesome reggae drummer. So we kind of formed the band that way. And then eventually Daehan replaced him as a drummer because Calvin was just too busy touring, you know, with J-Bug and stuff like that. And then, and Will Tafolo, great bassist, came in, and Ali Kaliman, great guitarist. He's in New York right now, but came in, and now we have Ethan Capone, awesome keyboardist. So, I'm just so blessed to have a Hawaii-based band. Yeah.
And you guys have been like touring on the mainland too, right? Like
that has been an annual tour that we've been building up the last 6 or 7 years now, because Nujabes passed away 10 years ago. And we kind of do it around March. And it's been growing every year. It's amazing.
Yeah. I've seen some of the like live videos. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty fun stuff.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
People, especially young kids, they just come out the woodwork, you know, because a lot of them are still discovering us through watching or rewatching Samurai Champloo, and
of course,
learning about us, you know, through Nujabes' music that gets passed down, so to speak, right?
Yeah. And then what about WabyShaka? So how did that idea come about, and how did you end up like, I'm going to make resin figures? Like what?
So I've always liked art, just making stuff in general. And one time, so the long story is this guy, Clarence, he's an awesome beat maker and a promoter, based from Vancouver, but he was based in Hong Kong at the time. I don't think he's there right now, but he has strong ties in the industry there. So he invited us over there to perform and tour a little bit in China. And because he was working closely with like manufacturing, he just offered me like, hey, if you want to make some 3D toy, let me know. And I was like, sure. And I have some ideas. So I just sketching a lot of things out, but I was like, rather than just give him a flat 2D drawing for some artist to go through the process of rendering it, why don't I just make a mock using clay? So I just started building stuff with clay just to show him, really. But then I just started watching YouTube first, you know, how to make clay figurines and how to smooth it out. And then I eventually started looking up, how to make my own mold using Home Depot silicone. You know what I mean? And that led to actually ordering silicone. And then I went through like 5 or 6 iterations till the point that I made like real deal molding. And then I started getting into resin. I started asking questions. I went to Fiberglass Hawaii, and they helped me out a lot, and the rest is history.
So what, for people that haven't seen, you know, your figures, what kind of things do you make?
You know, I'll actually basically have one mold.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Besides a little surfer that I do, it's just a mashup between a wave and a shaka. So I call it, it's wabi or waby, like wave and baby.
That's right.
So I just call it a WabyShaka.
Oh, okay. And so I thought it was wabi because
it's okay. A lot of people call it wabi, like wabi-sabi, but it doesn't matter. And so the beauty for me is that every piece is unique. You know what I mean? Like when I first completed my first Shaka. I was just so happy. Yeah. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I was like, man, if I send this off, right, and have it duplicated, and 100 of them came back in my possession, I'm not going to be that stoked. So I just knew that, you know what I mean? And then of course you would have to hand polish each one of them, and that's just straight up labor. But I found a lot more excitement in making each thing unique as far as color, what material you put into it. And if I'm that excited about making each one unique, so would the person receiving it, right? Whether they got it for free or as a gift, or whether they purchased it, you know what I mean? I want that unique experience to be in their hands as well. So it's just a little thing that I just got into. Like for a period of time, I was making 3 a day, every single day, you know, and just trying to improve on the technique of casting resin and then pressurizing them and all of that stuff. Yeah.
So, the other day I was at the boutique Milo, Hawaii. It's in this area of Hawaii called Kaka'ako, but kind of the art district, I guess you would say, of Honolulu. So is that the place where people would go to get them, or do you sell them online anywhere?
I mean, so Milo is where I put them in a glass case. So our good friend Jake Mizuno, who owns a store, he approached me one time, and at first I was very hesitant, but he was so supportive of what I do, and I thought it would be a good way to showcase, like literally and figuratively showcase what I do. And a lot of people do find out from that store. Even Adam Sandler bought one from me.
Really?
Yeah, for his daughter. When I was there.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I wouldn't usually name drop, but I'm just saying, you know, I would never tell people that offhand, but so a lot of good things have happened.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. Well, you seem to just kind of try different things and, you know, try a whole bunch of different stuff. And then, you know, when people find out like about, you know, WabyShaka, and they go, oh, wait, this guy is a rapper. Like, oh, let me check out his stuff. And it just seems like, you know, it might lead back and forth, right?
Yeah, maybe if someone's curious enough. Yeah. But I think just my motivation is really, I just want to do whatever that excites me most that day. And I think that's a very that's a very, I don't know, laissez-faire attitude to life. Like I think it's a luxury to be able to say that.
Sure.
Wake up in the morning, say, okay, do I want to make music today, or do I want to make art today? And for me, those are just options. I never go, I don't want to do anything today. Like I got to be doing something. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So sometimes it's stickers. Sometimes it's making clothing. Sometimes it's making resin or music.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're enjoying it, I mean, that's what keeps you going, right?
I do, actually. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey,
I do. Yeah. I can't get enough of it. Like, honestly, I can talk your ear off about stickers for about 2 hours.
Yeah, you gave me some stickers, and I'm happy. For real, man. I wasn't expecting stickers today.
Who doesn't like stickers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a couple questions as we're wrapping up. But has the kind of stuff that you've been putting into your songs, that you rap about, that you write about in your songs, changed? Has your kind of focus evolved since started 20 years? Were the things you were rapping about 20 years ago like not so relevant now, or like what has your approach been with the content of your songs?
Oh man, well, kind of going back to our first topic, like I really let the music dictate where it goes. So I don't really think about it that much in terms of the arc of my career or how I've evolved or changed. I really just try to start with a blank slate, like this shikishi, and then just let the music take me. Right. And of course I have the audience in mind when I do that, but as far as the act of creating something, I try not to interfere with that process. Like for example, right now I'm finishing up an album called Triumphant with a producer named Jack the Rip from Indiana. Okay. So we already have like 20 songs, and we just got to pick out like 12 or 13 and just finish it up. But that one's like more like straight up boom bap sound of the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Because I've been craving that a lot. It's either all this modern trap stuff that's on the radio is very heavily synthesized and electronic, or even with what people refer to as boom bap, it's just too mellow for me. Like there's this whole lo-fi movement, what they call, of mostly sampled music and break beats, but it's like very, very, very mellow, you know. And of course there's a lot of appeal to that side of having chill beats. They call it chill hop.
Sure.
And I like that too. And that's mostly what I'm known for. But me personally, I really like music that gets you going as well and really speaks to you in that way. So yeah, you'll see when I'm done.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll check it out. Do you have any insight into the rap scene in Japan at the moment? Like, do you think, you know, it is it growing? Is it just kind of like always in the background, but never going to break into something more mainstream? Like, have you seen it change over the years?
Oh, of course. I mean, Japan has grown considerably because ever since the new generation started rapping more and freestyling and battling, now high school kids are super into it. And yeah, so there are a lot of young rappers coming out every year. And they're heavily influenced by American styles, you know, like making music videos. They're kind of similar vibe and doing trappy stuff, but it's all good, you know. I mean, we're no different. We had our influences and we try to emulate them as well. So so my answer is it's huge.
Oh, that's
but
great.
Commercially, I don't know. It's a different story, you know.
Yeah, commercially,
because it's very poppy.
Yeah.
They don't
idol stuff and whatever, and that seems to be like, you know, the big thing. But you know, I don't know if like a rap kind of hip hop song has really broken into the mainstream lately. Can't think of
I mean,
anything.
I don't really expect anything out from the mainstream because you will get co-opted as soon as you break that barrier. Like, you know what I mean? You're scrutinized more. You probably can't do anything bad at that point. You got to be squeaky clean, and that's not hip hop to me.
True. Yeah.
Right? So I would encourage anybody to just think of the worldwide audience and not try to cater to one particular audience.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to be able to say that, you know. But yeah.
Cool. So last area that I wanted to ask you about, in an interview that you did recently, it was on YouTube, you talked a little bit about ramen.
Ramen, yeah.
Ramen.
Oh, with
like,
with the OC guys, yeah.
Yeah. Any ramen places you like in Honolulu? Any places?
Oh yeah, I definitely recommend Wagaya.
Wagaya. Oh yeah, I've been to Wagaya.
That is our spot.
Yeah, that's a good place.
Junpu is good as well.
Junpu, I've been there too. Yeah. I like that place. Yeah.
And I don't know. Last few weeks, I've kind of tried to be healthier. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to eat vegetarian. So I mean, I was a vegetarian for a good 5 or 6 years. So I'm okay with that without eating meat. But they have really nice vegetarian options. So I like those too. They're my go-to for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Any other kinds of foods you particularly enjoy?
I mean, I live off of Mexican food. Thai food, Vietnamese food. So most what you call ethnic foods, I guess. I love Korean food.
Have you been able to find a good, reliable Mexican food place here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
No doubt. Yeah. People kind of diss Mexican food in Hawaii, but I think it's nonsense. Of course, you can't really compare it with a regular taco truck in LA, you know, that has so much flavor and stuff. But then again, you know, out here, yeah, there are lots of good places. Taco Cabana.
I haven't been there. Okay.
In downtown. That's awesome.
I will check it out. Yeah.
There's Mission.
I have not been there.
In same place, same area, 4th Street. There's Maria Bonita, which people always sleep on. I have no idea why. It's so good. There's King Tacos.
Okay, wow. Okay, I need to go to these places.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for those recommendations.
No, they're all good, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even front on Whole Foods tacos. They're pretty good, you know. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Shingo, thank you very much for a very fun conversation.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And whoever's out there, thank you for listening and being with us.
And I will include all the links and all that stuff in the show notes so people can go check out all your stuff. Yeah. Where is the best place that people can go to, like, if they want to keep up with your stuff?
I mean, in this day and age, really Instagram or Facebook.
Okay. And what's your account on Instagram? What's
if you search me on the Shing02, Shing02, I'll definitely pop up. So
Awesome.
Look me up.
Okay. Either way, I'll include the links. So again, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say real quick here, I'm so sorry, Shingo, for not being able to put this episode out sooner. I was not thinking it would take 2-ish years to put out this episode, but this thing called the pandemic happened, and a lot of unexpected stuff happened when that thing happened. So anyway, sorry, but I am so happy that I got to release it finally. If you want to go check out Shingo's stuff and his Instagram, go check out the show notes in your podcast app or over at japanstationpodcast.com. If you have any questions or comments, send them over to mail@japanstationpodcast.com. Remember to follow, rate, and review on your podcast platform. Those things really do help the show, so go do that. And of course, remember to follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Japankyo News. If you're doing any shopping on Amazon, make sure to use the Amazon affiliate link, japankyo.com/Amazon. Thank you so much to You Know Me for providing the opening and closing song. That does it for this episode. That's the last one of 2021. So we made it, guys. Hopefully 2022 will be a good year with plenty of fun stuff and freedom. Go check out the latest episode of Ichimon Japan if you haven't done so already. That one is all about Super Nintendo World over at Universal Studios Japan. My co-host Ryan got to visit, so he talks a little bit about that, and I get to live a little bit vicariously through him because I would love to go to Japan and visit Super Nintendo World, but we can't do that quite yet. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode and throughout 2021. And remember, go find your miniature pony.
Just do it!